Donald Trump is stronger than ever. Kamala Harris is weaker than ever. Reject the black pill. The corporate media, the legacy corporate media, is engaging in psychological warfare against patriots, against conservatives and moderates right now. They know that Kamala is weakening. The honeymoon phase is wearing off. So the psychological warfare is increasing. The polls are oversampling for Democrats. I'm going to show you why things are falling apart for Kamala Harris. But not only that, but a record that Trump broke that no one could have ever imagined, and some secret weapons up Trump's sleeve. So stick around for that. We're going to start with a protest from the far left in New York City, and this just shows that Kamala is not supported by her whole party. There's the more moderate Democrats and the far left, and they hate her. Check this out.
Democratic rally supporting Kamala Harris's presidential campaign turned into chaos as pro-Palestinian protesters invaded the venue.
That's right. They were trying to have their voices heard for their cause. They later caused thousands of dollars in damage to a nearby restaurant. Good Day's Robert Moses joins us now with more on what went on. Robert, good morning.
Dan and Tashani, good morning to you. Yes, first the rally, then an after party at a restaurant. Damage was done. Police tell me they took 14 people into custody in what could be a preview of more protests to come next week at the Democratic convention. Last night, chaos descended on Bird in Hand, a restaurant in Harlem near where prominent Democrats, including Governor Kathy Hochul and Mayor Eric Adams, had gathered earlier to show their support for Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, neither of whom attended. Demonstrators interrupted the mayor as he spoke.
Make sure you vote. Make sure you vote. Tell them to vote. Make sure you...
That was only the beginning. Later, protesters stormed the restaurant during the after-party.
Children in body bags.
When police kicked out the demonstrators, mayhem erupted. Smoke bombs went off and protesters damaged part of the restaurant's outdoor seating area. Police say they took 14 people into custody. The violence highlighted how politically charged the war in Gaza remains in this election year. Earlier in the day, former President Donald Trump, who has been full-throated in his support of Israel, focused on a different topic in Asheville, North Carolina: the economy and what he says his opponent did or didn't do for it.
Just remember, she goes to work every morning in the West Wing. Her desk is 10 steps from the Oval Office.
There are a lot of young far-left Democrats who are not going to vote for Kamala. They even give her the nickname Bomala for supporting war. And there are going to be at least 5,000 protesters at the Democratic National Convention in just a couple days. Those are just the protesters who have permits. There might be 100,000, and there's not enough police. The Chicago PD said we're already short-staffed. It's going to get crazy. And the hate for Kamala is going to be shown. The mainstream media will ignore it, but there will be other independent journalists there showing how much opposition there is to Kamala. And if that wasn't enough, people already are starting to distrust her choice and vice president. Tim Walz is guilty of stolen valor, and he didn't just mischaracterize saying that he was in war and actual combat, suggesting that he actually lied about his rank at his time of retirement. And we have this quote here in a statement to Fox News. Army Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Rossman, Minnesota National Guard's Director of Operation, explained Walz's rank at the time of his retirement. He was technically a command sergeant major when he deployed to Europe. He only went to Italy, by the way. He must have got PTSD from cold meatballs or something, the way he sounds. But when he deployed to Europe, he was technically a command sergeant major with his battalion. But to retire as that, you have to go through a final course. And Walz did not complete that course from a benefits perspective. So the Army retired him as a master sergeant, a lower enlisted rank. So I think that's an M8 that he retired at, but he has been going around claiming for years that he retired what I believe is an M9, otherwise a command sergeant major. You know, he served in that role, but he didn't retire in that role. And that's what he's been telling people, and it's making a lot of veterans angry. And you know what? J.D. Vance has been fearless going on the corporate media, and his IQ is so high, he doesn't fall for their tactics. As much as you hate the corporate media, we all have to admit they are professional liars. They're the most talented propagandists in the world. They're specially trained. So when you see, I'm going to show you J.D. Vance right now take on Dana Bash fearlessly, and every propaganda tool she has, he sidesteps it because he knows it. He knows their playbook, and he's smarter. Check this out.
He's a veteran of a war, nodding along in agreement instead of saying, no, I did serve my country and I did it honorably, but I never went to a war zone. I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did. That's what I was criticizing. And yes, I do think it's scandalous behavior.
You talked about one of the things that he said, weapons of war. He was talking in a campaign stop about, he was trying to talk about gun control.
Sure.
And he said, weapons of war I carried in war. I will say that the Harris-Walz campaign did say that the governor misspoke there.
Sure.
Do you accept that?
He misspoke. Another word is that he lied about it, and he didn't correct the record for 15 years until he was put under political pressure because I called it out, Dana. Whatever you want to call it, a misspeaking or a lie, I think Tim Walz should have to correct the record. Now, you pointed out a soldier who defended his service. There have been a number of soldiers who served with Tim Walz who have criticized him on the exact same grounds that I have, because it's not right to misstate or to embellish what you've done, and I think that's what he did.
When liberals are watching the legacy media and independents are accidentally watching it, they're seeing J.D. Vance absolutely destroy all of these liberal pundits. You could hear Dana Bash trying to rephrase the question. Are you disrespecting Tim Walz's service? And notice how J.D. Vance didn't accept that line of questioning. He said, it's about lying and embellishing what you did so you can get more honor for yourself when you didn't actually serve in that capacity. That was amazing, and we're going to continue to see that from Vance. Such a great pick by Trump. He is the 5th most conservative senator out of all 100 in the U.S. Senate, according to the Heritage Foundation. But not only is that taking place, we actually have Kamala being attacked from the left for being a communist. Washington Post opinion: when your opponent calls you a communist, maybe don't propose price controls. It's hard to exaggerate how bad Kamala Harris's price gouging proposal is. Now, hypothetically, there's been some allegations that her father is literally a Marxist professor, or he was, that Kamala Harris's father was a professor that had a strong belief in Marxism. There's those allegations out there, and that's why she literally, when she says we have to unburden what has been, she's talking about replacing the Constitution with a communist utopia. And it's not just the Washington Post. We can look at NPR. This article is quite a bit older, but is talking about the nightmare of grocery shopping in Venezuela. When the price fixing came in, all of the corporations got together and colluded, and there's nothing on the shelves in Venezuela. People are having a very difficult time feeding their families. And this is what Kamala Harris wants and what she is discussing. Bravo to the Washington Post. I can't believe I'm saying that, but they're pointing that out. And they're not the only ones. CNN absolutely destroys Kamala. You're going to love this. And after this, we're going to talk about this amazing record that Trump just broke.
The particular way that this is written, which is likely to be the template for any proposal that Harris would eventually embrace, is especially bad in that it just bans excessive prices, grossly excessive profit margins, and says that the Federal Trade Commission can use any metric it deems appropriate to decide what that would mean, which basically says it's not going to be markets, it's not going to be supply and demand that's determining how much your grocery store charges you for milk or for eggs. It's going to be some bureaucrat in D.C., which seems like totally unworkable, first of all, for the FTC to be deciding like how much Kroger charges for eggs in Michigan. But it also would be very bad for markets. We've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before: Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, et cetera. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets, plenty of uncertainty. And beyond that, the specific way this bill is written might actually increase prices because of some of the other language in it. Things like requiring public companies to disclose in their quarterly reports, their quarterly earnings reports, how they're setting prices, which is a great way to help them collude, which normally we don't want them to do.
How pathetic for Kamala Harris. She is getting attacked by the Washington Post and CNN. She is in trouble, whether she realizes it or not. Voters are going to turn on her. So what's this amazing record that Donald Trump just broke? Let's take a look right now. According to Elon Musk, the Spaces audio interview on X.com between 7:47 and 10:47, 3 hours, it generated 998 million views and the conversation surrounding it. Now, does that mean that 1 billion people listened to the whole thing? No, not necessarily, but it does mean that hundreds of millions of people listened to at least part of it, and people that are hearing from Trump directly and not the fake news. They can't stand it. The EU threatened Musk, saying you have to censor Trump or else, because we don't want him to be heard. That's how desperate the U.S. is, getting the UK involved with their silly speech laws because they don't have a constitution. But even more importantly, here are the people that hear Donald Trump or heard him directly speaking to Musk. Look at this age group in the demographics. Male, 54. Female, 46%. That's amazing that a lot of women, because they tend to be more liberal, they're hearing from Trump directly. 70% of these people are age 25 to 34, which are traditionally more left-leaning. So out of those billion-plus impressions now, if you assume that 25% listen to 5 minutes of it, you've got 250 million people. Obviously, they're from all over the world. It's not just Americans, but it's a lot of young Americans that are hearing Trump directly and not the fake news. You've got 7% of the people that are under the age of 24 or 24 and under, 17% 35 to 44, and then 4% 44 to 54, and then 1% over 54. So you've got this core demographic, 25 to 44, which the younger is more liberal, the older is more conservative. Even in the 40s, you have quite a bit of liberals. So this is great that this demographic, 1 billion impressions. That's so amazing. And let's talk about why these polls are bogus for the most part and what issue really matters. Now, as Robert Romano on dailytorch.com wisely discusses this, it's the economy. It's the most important issue, and Trump leads Harris by 6 points on the issue, and he leads the election 50-49, according to a recent Fox. Here's the implication. The implication, once again, is that the national popular vote could be at play in November for the first time in 20 years, as Democrats have won the national vote 5 out of the 6 last elections. But Democrats lost the Electoral College in 2 of those, 2000 and 2016, whereas no Republican who won the popular vote has ever lost the Electoral College. And it's in play because people trust Trump more on the economy. And you even have Kamala Harris sounding like Donald Trump. And if she's in the Oval Office or she's 10 feet, 20 feet from it, why isn't she fixing the economy now?
Are too high. It feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. The bills add up. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes, prescription medication, the cost of food. A loaf of bread costs 50% more. Ground beef is up almost 50%. There's a serious housing shortage. The price of housing has gone up. It's too difficult to build, and it's driving prices up. It is out of reach. The size of down payments have gone up as well. Costs are still too high. There's not much left at the end of the month, and prices are still too high.
She sounds like Trump because she knows the economy is the issue, and it's her fault, her and Biden's fault. So when you look at Real Clear polling, you look at the aggregate, they have Harris up by 1, but Trump traditionally has polled 3-4% under of what he actually, where his vote is. Some people say it's because individuals are afraid to reveal that they're voting for Trump out of fear or retribution from the left. Some people say it's other reasons, but it was true in 2016. It was true in 2020. Trump traditionally polls 2, 3, 4% lower than where he's actually at. And he's remained strong. Now, Harris, she has gotten a bump. But again, this is a honeymoon period that's going to go away. And if you look at also 538, it has Harris up by 2.6%. But again, that's within that margin of Trump under polling. And some of these polls are way overrepresenting for liberals. The time of the day they're calling, the area codes they're calling, not all polling methodology is the same. So don't take the black pill. Trump is winning big. He's doing as well as ever. Just pray for him, for his safety, so that he can continue to focus on the campaign. I'll pray for his safety. God, just help Trump and keep him safe and protect him physically, mentally, and spiritually. In Jesus' name, amen. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button. We're Americans for Limited Government. We'll be back with more soon. And YouTube thinks you'll enjoy this video up here.